Hi guys, and welcome back to my C++ for game development series. And in this part we'll be going over classes and objects, like the very basics of it. Now in the last part we talked about structs, and if you guys have any questions or suggestions regarding this or any other video, make sure you guys do join my Discord server. Link to that is in the description. Also down there is a link to my Patreon if you guys do wish to support me. Now, while using structs, we faced one problem. That is, there is no way for us to tell that a car is also a vehicle. A car and a vehicle are two separate entities. However, with classes and objects, you can actually tell that a car is a vehicle using a concept known as inheritance. And there are many other advantages to using classes and objects, but we'll just be brushing through how to actually create a class, how to actually use inheritance, what inheritance is, and stuff like that. So let's just imagine a situation where we want to convert this to something a little more reusable. So what you do is instead of struct, you'd use the keyword class. The remaining syntax remains the same. Oops, I had my caps lock on. So class vehicle, and you would have class car. So as of now, everything remains exactly the same. However, you would notice that over here you get an error saying these variables are inaccessible. Now this is another difference between a class as well as a struct. These members which you see here are private by default. So what do I mean by private? So basically you can have three types of access specifiers for any variable or function in C++. The first one is going to be private. And by default, every member inside a class is going to be private, hence you cannot access them. The second one is protected. Now protected basically means you can access these variables in this class or in any derived class of this class. So basically if I make this protected, let's say I change these variables to go inside the vehicle class, because obviously that's what we want. Every vehicle is going to have a top speed, a color, and a number of seats. But now I cannot access them in car. The way I would allow access over there is going to be making them protected. You would still not be able to access it. Now the reason is we haven't told that a car is also a vehicle. The way you do that is use a colon, type in public. You can actually type private and protected. Those are different types of inheritances. We don't really need to cover them. Generally, you would be using public, so that's called the visibility mode for inheritance. You don't really need to know it really. Generally, you'll use public. However, you can use private and protected. I will brush through what they do as well. So if you type in vehicle, now we have told the compiler that a car is also a vehicle. So basically we have inherited vehicle to car. Now if you were to notice, if I make this private again, or if I were to just leave it like that, you'd see that you get the error once again if you just leave it like this. So just make it protected. So this makes total sense. However, we are still not able to access the variables in the main function, and there's a very good reason to that. Now this is mainly for data security. So basically this is called data hiding. You're basically hiding all the data which is there over here, so that you cannot wrongly modify the data. So let's say I directly had access to the variable. I could just have a method which does this: car1 dot top speed equals something like this. However, I don't want to be able to do this since this is absolutely unsafe. So the way I do this is I am going to go ahead and create a function which is public, which is the third access specifier. Public basically means you can access this anywhere, outside the class, within the class, or anywhere else. So now if I were to go ahead and create a simple function, set top speed. So we'll make this of type void because we don't really have any return value. Now you can define the function outside the class or inside the class. We'll talk about outside class function definition as well. So set top speed, and what you can do is you can say top speed equals new speed. I'm going to go ahead and take this as a parameter, and it's of type float, so I'm going to keep the same. And also we can do a simple if check. If new speed is less than 500, so you can't just give any random speed value, so there is a safety check. If you don't really care about it, you can have a setter without these checks. That's totally okay. Now instead of setting the top speed like this through the constructor, you can also set it like this. You can say car1 dot set top speed 200. This is going to work totally as well. Now if you were to notice, there is another error here, that is the constructor is not called. Basically you have to make your constructor public, otherwise it will not work. So as you can see, now the error is gone. Make sure you create your constructors under the public section. Also, now we have no way to actually just access the values without modifying them. For that we can create something known as a getter. So a simple way to do it is going to be float get speed, and we can make this one const. I'll tell you what const is. And what we can do is we can just go ahead and return top speed. So get top speed is better. Const basically means you cannot modify any members of this class inside this. So basically I cannot modify top speed in this function. So if I type in top speed equals 100, you get an error. You cannot modify top speed in a const method. You can just read the value basically. So now if I just go ahead and type in get top speed, and obviously there's a method, so I'll need parentheses, you'd see that this is going to work. Let's just create methods for get color and stuff as well. So let me just copy them over. We have one of type std string. So std string get color is going to be one of our methods. So we are going to return color, and we have numseeds. Numseeds is a short int, so we can have that. Get numseeds. This one is going to be short int. Numseeds is what we want to return, and all of these are const methods. Now I'll just show you guys how to define a function outside the class. So it's fairly simple. What you do is, let's actually make the setter for color. So how you do it is you type in the return type and your class name, vehicle, followed by a scope resolution operator, and you type in your method name. So let's say we call this one set color. Oops, I typed in get by mistake. So set color, and you can go ahead and define your function. And one thing you'll notice is it still says there's an error. That's because you have to just declare it once. So if you are going to do this, this is going to work totally fine. Just make sure you declare it once inside the class. Just give the function prototype, and you should be able to define it outside the class. This you generally do when you have two files, one header file where you will declare all these functions, and one .cpp file where you will actually go ahead and define these functions. That's how it's generally done. So let's actually do that right now. Since we are including this header.h file, you can just go ahead and cut this, paste this inside this, and you would notice that this totally works. And we can define set color inside this main.cpp class. So it's a lot less cluttered. Now let's move car as well to the other file. So header.h, and let's go ahead and move car over here. Alright. Now we still don't have access to all the methods. So we have made set color, we have made get color, so we need one more. We need set numseeds. So let's do it inside the class itself, just for convenience sake. So void set num seats. So we are not going to do any checks over here. We'll just go ahead and create a simple method which just sets the number of seats. Num seats is equal to, let's just take it as an argument. What do we call this? Let's call this new seats, maybe. This should work fine. And even for set color, let's just have an argument here. So std string new color, and over here let's just say std string new color. Now we can go ahead and set color equals new color. Alright, now we can replace this by our getters. This is going to work exactly the same. So get num seats, and this one is private, that's the reason we are getting an error, so we can put that under public. And let's just move that to the vehicle class because it's going to be common for both, and these constructors are for car anyways. And again we can use our getters over here. Over here as well we can use the get color method, and over here as well we can use the get num seats method. So this is how we would implement this using classes and objects. Now what we have over here is the class itself, and we have inherited this from this class, and what we created over here is called an object. Now this object represents one car. So the class is basically telling you what the characteristics of a car are. So every car object that is created will have these characteristics, and each car that is out there is going to be an object to the class car, which is car 1 and car 2. So you could imagine them as any two cars parked on your road or something like that. So each of them will be an object, whereas car itself in generic terms would be your class. So if I go ahead and run this, you shouldn't get any errors. And as you can see, we get the data printed correctly according to what we've given in this constructor and your constructor over here. So that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. This was the basics of objects and classes. Very similar to structs, more in utility, and generally you'd use objects and classes for any entity which has meaning in your game. And structs are generally used for just storing variables. So thanks for watching. Leave a like. Make sure you guys do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and make sure you hit the bell icon so you won't miss any future videos.